Morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Christelle Rinn. I'm the COO here at HRLocker, and today we'll be going through the hiring side in HRLocker, so the applicant tracking system. We'll be going through how to set it up in terms of putting up your jobs, how to post job specs, how to put these in your website, how to make sure that your social media is incorporated in as well. And so we'll go through then in regards as well to how to rate your candidates that you have within the system. And if you have any questions at all, I have, excuse me, I have Jenny with me today, who, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the questions and answers section. And I'll answer the questions as we go. So at any stage, feel free just to drop a question in and I'll get through them as we go. Okay. So I'll just go to HRLocker here now. So as many are using HRLocker, some are new, the applicant tracking system within HRLocker is the hire side of things, which is up here in the black ribbon. If you don't have this, come and talk to one of the team here. We can look at turning it on for you, and we can look at the package that you're on. But if you're looking at, I suppose the first step is to link your users onto HR, from HRLocker to the hire side of things. And when you're looking at the different types of users, I'll go into the directory here, and you see I've selected Alan here. He's a manager of mine, and I can decide first of all what kind of role I want for him to have within the applicant tracking system. So do I want him to be administrator? Administrators can do anything in the system, so they can post jobs, they can take them down, and they can see all applicants, or just a hiring manager. So hiring managers have access to nothing until you allow them to have access to them. So say, for example, you could be need some help with maybe a team lead or a supervisor or a specific manager. So you as HR could be posting up the jobs, but you require them to work on the specific job with them. So you set them as a hiring manager, and then you'd allocate them to the job, which I'll show you how to do as we go. So once you have that kind of structure set up of who your admins are going to be within a hire and who your hiring managers are going to be, we can start to set up the actual kind of core within hire. So as I said, you click this button and it'll bring you into hire over here. And you'll get brought to a dashboard. If it's the first time you're using it, you won't have anything filled in here because obviously you won't have any jobs posted up. And then there will be job boards linked in as well, and any of the social media that you're using. First point of call that you want to do is start to set up, I suppose, where do you want your jobs to go? So that is here in the settings side of things. So the first side is your website integration. And there's a little code that you can take. We have 3 different kinds of codes. I'll go through them in a second. Little code you can take. You can take this little code and give it into your web developer, and it'll paste a little widget into your website. So the 3 different types of codes that you can choose from, so you don't have to do all 3, you choose one. The first one is if you want your jobs just to be listed, by when you post them up, there's no kind of order to them. This one is that it'll list them per industry. So it categorize them per industry, and this one it'll sort them by location. So say, for example, if you're hiring in the UK and Ireland, you know, it'll list them in 2 different locations. It'll categorize them. So you take the code, you put it here into your website, and then this little part here, this is our own HRLocker website. This section here is powered by HRLocker. So any changes that you do, it'll automatically get pushed up into your website. So all the jobs are in here, and you can go through the different formatting and make sure that it's the right format for your own website. So once you have that first step done for your website integration, the next side you're going to look at is your social media. So I suppose in today's recruitment environment, it's really important to look at all different areas that you can post your jobs up to. You know, it's no longer just kind of job boards that we're looking at. Social media is a huge way to get jobs as well. So depending on what industry you're in, but connect your Twitter, connect your LinkedIn account as well. The LinkedIn accounts you're connecting is there could be a number of different personal accounts that you're linking, and then you'll connect your company account. And then here as well, This is if you want your jobs to go up on your LinkedIn page as jobs, so not just the link. So this goes onto the wall of LinkedIn. Sorry, this section here goes onto the wall of LinkedIn, and this posts them up as jobs. And you need your LinkedIn company ID, which is the last few bits in your the URL, which I'll show you in a second. So now you've connected your Twitter and your LinkedIn. Next section here is the job boards. So we have all these free job boards to post up to. We also have one-page job board here, which is Irish Jobs. So you'll decide here which job boards you really want to use. The key thing to remember, I suppose, is say, for example, we have some specific job boards for the US or for India. If your job isn't located there, it won't pick up the jobs. So, you can select them all, and your job, if it's based in Ireland, won't be picked up in the US. So the key ones that people really find they get most applications from, I suppose, is from LinkedIn, Indeed, and there's Glassdoor, Job Inventory, Monster, Career Jet bit as well. So you can start to decide, okay, these are the job boards that I want to use. So now you've got to decide where your jobs are actually going to go out. So you've got your first step done. Step 2, you're going to go into your site styles here. This is important. You might want to get your marketing people involved in this to decide, what way do you want your jobs to look. So I have green writing here. What color is it that you want to that you have there? Do you have blue writing? What exactly are your branding guidelines to make sure you have the right text, the right Pantones, and the right way you want to do it? And you can do it per different jobs as well. Okay, so step 1 and 2, we're done. We're ready to go. We've it all set up. We have it looking the way we want it to look in terms of our branding guidelines. And then we've decided where we want our jobs to go as well. So the next side of things is to actually start to post your jobs. And that's in this section here. I look at the jobs on the black ribbon. So I'll go to this job over here, which is the customer service job. But if you're adding a job from scratch, you'll go into add job. Actually, we'll go there first. Add job. So obviously the bits with the red stars are mandatory fields that you have to put in. So your job title, city. So it's important when you're posting jobs that, for example, I suppose this isn't a rule that we have, but for example, for Indeed specifically, they won't pick up a job if you have like Cork, Galway, Dublin. They won't pick up the job like that. So you can only list one city, or you can put remote if it's remote. Okay, put in your country. These ones, then these section here, they're not mandatory. So if you want to put in what type they're in, what industry, salary, there's a little note there as well, just in regards to salary, is that don't put in the currency because it'll take it from the location you put in. So just put in the numeric field. It's just the way that LinkedIn take up the job experience, job codes if you use them, and put in your job description. Then you have a little bit of an option here is, do you want people to just fill out the forms, which I'll go through in a second, or do you want people to mandatory to upload their CVs? Maybe sometimes, so there's 2 little options here. So sometimes people get a lot of applications from Indeed, and maybe they only wanted to go up to LinkedIn. So you can decide if you don't want to push to Indeed. Do not display to the public. What this is basically is if you're recruiting internally. You don't want it to go up into all the job boards, but you want to have an active job link for people to submit their CVs to. That's what that is there. And these are all the forms that we've created, which I'm going to go through in a second. So once you have all that done, you'll publish your job. I'll just go here to a job that I published. So there's your job. And once you press that publish button, it'll go onto all the job boards. It'll go onto your Twitter and your LinkedIn. And it'll go onto the free job boards as well, and it'll automatically update your website as well. If you want to post it on Facebook, you can press that little button there. Oh, trying to connect all my Facebook. Connect your Facebook, and it'll post up into your Facebook as well. If you want to do something, maybe your marketing team have done something specific in terms of like a little image or something like that, you can come here and broadcast it onto job on Twitter and LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, if you have it connected, what will happen is a little box will come up and you can put a specific image that you want to put on Facebook, on Twitter and LinkedIn as well, if you have a specific image created for each of those jobs. A couple of important things to note here. There's 3 links here which are kind of important. The job link here That's your unique URL for this job. And say, for example, maybe you want to post it up into a job board that we don't integrate with this. So if, for example, we have a number of non-for-profits who'd use ActiveLink, we don't actually integrate with that job board. But when you're posting a job there, if you just tell people how you'd like to apply, you drop this link in there to say this is how you'd like for people to apply, and they'd get brought into the hire page, that people would actually still get they put their CVs through this section as well. And then the internal job. So if you, for example, if we didn't tick that button that you didn't want it to be published externally, it's an internal job, you give them this little link here, and that's your internal job board. Okay. So if we think back of when we were talking about the two different users that we had the administrators and we had the hiring managers. I'm logged in here as administrator, so obviously I'm able to publish the jobs and post the jobs. But now if I maybe want to start to work with my hiring manager, I can go in here into the permissions. All my hiring managers will be listed here. There's Alan we looked at earlier. I can grant him access. So he has access to this job. So he has access to nothing else. If you were looking at different jobs or different candidates, he won't have access to that, but he'll have access to this job to work on. Okay, so now we've our jobs up and we're happy. Everything has, we've posted everything up there. The job's going to, and hopefully we start to get a number of CVs into the portal. So now we need to decide, I suppose, kind of what our workflow is going to look like. So, and that's all here in the customize section. So the first place we're going to start with, really, I suppose, will be the email templates. So the first email templates you're going to look at here is the new arrival section. So this basically means every single person who applies for a job, they're going to get this automatic email. So by default, we have a default template here, but you're welcome to customize it to whatever it is that you use within your own company. So you'll put your customized email here. You decide who it's going to be from. Some people, if you see here, there's the reply to name. Some people don't like to have the person's name there, the HR manager's name, for example. They prefer for the company name to be there. You can change that, and obviously change the email to as you suit. Put in your rejected email. Again, most of these will have defaults too, but so you can put in your different emails for each one. If, for example, there isn't a status here that you want, you'll go into the custom statuses and you can add a custom status. So when I go into the add status here, for example, it can be an internal hire we'll go with, and I need to decide kind of what section that's going to be. So you'll see in the rejected section, there are email templates available. At arrival and screening, there aren't any email templates available for that. Interviewing, there is. So, and offered and hired. So maybe if it's, actually we might do internal interview. That looks like it's spelled. It's the internal interview, and I would put it in the interviewing section. Okay. It's created that workflow for me, but if I go into the email here, you'll see there's now there's been an email template that's set up. Now it's a default interview one, but we can create whatever we want there to be. So we can basically just have a look through what your actual status is and see, I suppose, replicate it here within the system and decide when do you want emails to go out? How does it work? Okay. So then the next section, once we have done that, is we're also going to look at the forms. So the forms, I suppose it's important to decide of when you're looking at the form. So when somebody is applying for a job, what information do you want to get before they come to you? Is there a specific, I suppose, degrees or qualifications or years experience that you require for somebody to apply for this job? So a lot of the time what people would put in here, say for example, if I look at the forms, if I look at the forms I have here, for example, there's, do you have a valid work visa? So you can, when you're creating the form, you can put in here, okay, so if they put in yes, that's the answer we want. If they put in no, then they're going to have failed the questionnaire. So the person can still apply for the job, but they will have a red mark on them saying that they failed the questionnaire. So you can put in here lots of different things. So your qualification requirements. So are you CIPD qualified? So for example, if you're hiring a HR person, so yes, obviously that's the answer we want. or no, if they're not CIBD qualified, it might rule them out automatically. But that doesn't mean that you might never go back and look at them. It just means that from, I suppose, the requirement that you want currently right now, they're failing it. When you're building the form, you can do a number of different things. So, for example, you can pull this across here. This is your single line text. So maybe I just want them to please tell me about your last job or something like that. You can create whatever application form you want. You can create kind of paragraph text as well if you want them to write a paragraph about themselves, drop down check boxes, things like that. And you can create an application, a pre-application form if you want. And in that application form, you can include some kind of, I suppose, pre-qualification questionnaires that they can, with a true or false answer. So now that I've kind of set that up, and hopefully I'm getting lots of different candidates in. So I'll go to the candidates here, for example. And so when you're setting up the job, you can decide, it's really up to an individual user. For every single applicant that comes in, do you want to get an email notification every single time, or perhaps it's, you maybe want to check it every Wednesday or whatever it is. You decide what way you want to do it. But say, for example, I have one application in here now, Philip Chalk. He's applied for the renewals manager. I'm just going to click into here. His CV is here, so I can have a look at his CV. I can see the emails that have gone out as well. And this is, I suppose, these are options that you can use in regards to when you're screening candidates. So you can screen candidates by doing a star rating. So maybe if I'm rating a 1-star person, that I suppose maybe means I'll probably never go back and look at that candidate, or maybe a 4 or 5-star candidate when I'm screening them to be like, okay, these are people that I might go back to. I might want to tag them with things as well. So I can put in their year's experience, maybe where they're experienced, maybe where they've worked before, anything that's kind of relevant. And this gives me a nice way to go back and just have a quick overview of candidates rather than going through their CV every single time. It also is a nice way, I suppose, of creating that database of candidates, so that you can, even perhaps if you don't hire this person for the specific job, maybe if you're looking to hire in another 2 or 3 months' time, you can go back and see, some candidates that were good candidates that you had. The key thing to do is when you're looking at the person. So, for example, they'll have come in first and they'll be at this stage here, which is the arrival stage. And remember, we looked at the custom statuses here. This will have populated in here. So they're at the arrival stage, that have gotten that arrival email. Then, depending on what way you'd like to do it, you maybe have screening or telephone interviews. Maybe you're bringing them for a telephone interview, and during the telephone interview, important that you're putting in the notes. So you can put in here, telephone interviewed on whatever date. And good candidate, whatever it is that you want to put in here. And that's important if you're working, for example, with another hiring manager, because perhaps the HR manager, I'm coming in here and screening all the candidates, doing the telephone interview, and then perhaps whatever your process is, the hiring manager might come in and do the actual interview. But they can come in here and have a look at all the notes, see why you brought them forward, see what was discussed in the telephone interview, see any other kind of notes that you have. Maybe there's specific notes in regards to salary information or start dates or anything like that, but it's all in one spot, so that between I suppose both the hiring manager and all the hiring managers involved, everybody knows what's going on with the candidate, which is important. So as I bring the person through the process, maybe they've passed a telephone interview. Now I actually want to bring them from interview, and you'll see this is the email template that we have already created. But maybe I want to put in here that I'm going to bring them in for Monday at 3 o'clock or whatever it's going to be. I'll email it to the person. So the 2 options here is just update status. That won't send the email. Update and send email will send the email. Excuse me. And the email will be here. So again, it's just kind of a good overview of everything that happens with the candidate. You don't have to go and ask whoever you're working with is what happened with that candidate, or did you actually send that email? They're coming to the candidate. Any other replies that the candidate will send in as well will also come in here, so that everything you're doing is in the one spot. Okay. So then ultimately you're going to bring them through the whole your whole statuses, I suppose, your whole workflow, and hopefully you're going to hire them. When you hire them, a little pop-up box is going to open up. Thank you. And this is where you kind of onboard them into HRLocker. So if you have this information to hand, You can put in their number of holidays, their start date, and you can decide whether you want to actually invite them into HRLocker. So a couple of decisions you want to make here is if you invite them into HRLocker now, their email invitation is going to go out to their Gmail account or whatever their personal account is going to be. And hopefully in HRLocker, you've set up a number of different onboarding things for them to do so that you can, and we can do that in another webinar, or if anybody wants to contact me to go through it. You'll have set up an onboarding office with different documents the person needs to sign, or different CPD they need to upload, or putting the personal details, whatever it is. If you don't want them to have access to that until the day they start to work, you just don't send the invitation email. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the questions. There's a couple of questions here, and I just want to go through them before I go through the next couple of sections. So the first question here, is there a possibility to buy an option for a few jobs on the site? I can see the benefit of subscribing for a year. I can't see the benefit of subscribing for a year subscription for 1 or 2 jobs. So for sure, we do have monthly options. So if you want to, whatever it is you're talking to, or maybe just drop me your details and I can set somebody up to discuss with you what the monthly options that you have. Are these free job sites? If you have paid job slots with a job site, can you use them through the system? So depending on which paid job sites you have, so say for example, oops, sorry. Oh gosh, I'm all over the place. So these are all free job slots. These are all free job boards here. And we have a paid integration with Irish Jobs. If you are using, for example, Paid Indeed, or maybe you're sponsoring the jobs on LinkedIn, so that's important that when I showed you the job a second ago here, that you're using this little job link over here. So say, for example, if you're using Paid Indeed, when you're posting up the job, it'll say, how would you like the candidate to apply? And you put in this link over here. So you're still pulling the candidates through HRLocker. Same with LinkedIn or any other paid job boards that you have. And I would say as well, to be honest, try to see how you go with the free job boards. And but obviously, if there's something that are working for you, keep going with that. But I'll go through the reports in a second to see how you can kind of see where what job boards are working for you. But if you are using paid job boards, so this is the link you need to be using when you're putting those job boards up there, that when it says how do you wish the candidate to apply, that you're putting that link in here so they get pushed in here. If you're using agencies, is there an agency portal for them to upload the CV? So it's in the referral section here, which I'm going to go through in a second because it's quite a chunky section. So we'll leave kind of 5 or 10 minutes to go through that. Can we set up an email to everyone who has permissions to review candidates when a new applicant has applied? Can we set up an email to everyone who has permissions to review candidates when? So probably not within the system. So what I'm just maybe I hope I'm answering this question properly, is that so you have hiring managers and then you want them to come in and review the CVs. I would say at that stage it's probably not something that you can do within the system. It's probably something, just an external email that you'll have to drop into people to say, come in now, you're ready to review this CVs. But I'm not sure if I answered that question correctly. So do you want to drop another question for me? So we've chosen for our jobs to be posted on multiple job boards. However, with only applicants, they seem to come in from 3 to 4. Specifically, we don't seem to get any applicants from Indeed. Is there any reason that our jobs are not pulled via Indeed or HRLocker? So Claire, I'm not sure specifically. So I would certainly say if you want to drop your information to me, Claire, so that we can have a look why. Indeed can be a little bit fussy sometimes. So for example, if you have the jobs posted on Indeed itself, and so you have them posted, you went onto Indeed and put them up itself, it won't take a copy of the job. So it won't take a copy of the job. If you've posted 2 or 3 jobs to the same, Indeed won't take copy. It's important that when you're putting in here, that you're putting correct cities down, because it won't take it then. Indeed is kind of very fussy on how they pick up jobs. But if it's not going up, please just contact us directly. And I'm not exactly sure why they're not going up, but they should go up. There shouldn't be any issues for it to go up. Okay. So the next section here is the referral section, which somebody had a question there in regards to how to manage recruiters. So the referral section within HRLocker can be used to manage not just recruiters, it can be used to manage anybody who, even internal employees who are referring people onto you. So the way it works is you'll come in here This is again your dashboard. If it's the first time using it, you won't see anything here, but you'll decide on you'll go to your contacts. So in here, if you, depending on if you're using a internal referral program or recruiters or both, you can put in your employees in here, and you can put in your recruiters. So let's say, for example, I'll have a look at this person here. We'll say they're a recruiter. I'm just going to go into edit over here. I can decide, okay, so for example, if they're a recruiter, do I want to limit their campaigns, or do I want them to have access to everything? So if I don't set the limit the campaigns, it means that for any job that I have put up here, they'll have access to upload CVs to me. If I prefer that maybe they're only just working on 1 or 2 jobs, and maybe it could be a specific recruitment agency that I only want them to work on, maybe just this renewals manager job, I'll just give them access to that one job. So again, kind of depending on what way you want them to work. So what we do in here, for example, is for any of our internal employees, I wouldn't limit the campaign. I let them kind of see all the jobs, and if anybody wants to refer somebody on, I'm more than delighted to take a referral. If by any chance we're using a recruiter with something be very, very specific, so I would just give them access to the one job that I'm requiring them to work on, rather than having it kind of a free-for-all. So that person then will get an email with a unique, I suppose, username and login. And what they'll get brought to here is the referral side of it here. Okay, so they'll have access here to the jobs that you've allowed them to have access. They'll be able to have a look here at the job that you're looking, the job description. They can either share it, if they're more than likely, if they're an employee, they might want to share it onto their LinkedIn, their Facebook, their Twitter, or by email. If it's a recruiter, they'll more than likely just add the candidates. So they'll just press the add here. They'll add the candidate up here, upload their CV, any more information that they have, and you'll get notification that the recruiter and or whoever it is has uploaded a CV in here for you to look on that specific job. The recruiter will have kind of an overview of have you interviewed them? Have you declined them? Have you hired them maybe off the position where they actually are in the hiring process? I'll just go back here. And then you'll see then when somebody applies, it's going to go here. When somebody applies, you'll have this referral. Sorry, when somebody uploads either a recruiter CV or just a general referral, you'll have this blue referral section here. And once you go in there, you'll be able to see basically who it was referred by. So if it was CPL or whoever recruiter you were seeing, you'll be able to see what job, who actually referred people on. How do we, just another question here before I go on. How do we set up hiring managers to review if we're using this tool as a standalone system separate from our main HRM system? So I'll show you that answer in a second. So, and actually I might just go with this question first. So is for referrals, if we're running an internal referral program where our employees are encouraged to refer applicants, can we auto-populate the contact list for employees on HRLocker? So the best way to do that is if you go into referrals here, and you go into my contacts. If you download the directory export from HRLocker and just upload it here, so you've got to upload contacts, it'll automatically bring in it'll upload everybody into the system here. So that's how you're going to bring everybody in here, okay? And then when you're setting up the campaigns, so if we go into my campaign here, you're going to start your new campaign, so you'll see any jobs that are there. So let's say we'll set up a campaign for this customer service manager and select. So the reward for hire. So this is kind of where it's going to be different. So obviously, for example, for a recruiter, reward for hire is going to be their terms and conditions. But if it is an internal hire, internal referral, you might put in, I don't know, like cinema tickets or 50 euros or whatever it is going to be for your actual internal hire. If there is reward for interview, that's an optional thing. You can put in whatever if it's applicable. So once you upload all your candidates, all your employees in here, Claire, they'll all get a notification that they've been uploaded here to say, please log into Hire. We're starting to use this for internal referrals. Here's your username and login, log in, and they'll get a login here to this section here. Okay, hope that answers your question. How do we set up hiring managers to review if we're using this tool as a standalone system? So if you're using this as a standalone system and you're not using HRLocker, you set up your hiring managers by going here to your account settings. and there's multiple users. So very important is this is where if you don't want to link people from HRLocker. So if you're using HRLocker and you're using your hiring managers there, do not put them in this section. This is for if you're not linking hiring managers from HRLocker. So if you want somebody external to HRLocker, you'll add your new user here, and you can decide here whether they're administrators or hiring managers. So that's where you're adding them if you're using this as a standalone system. Okay, that answers your question. Okie doke. So that's the referral section here. I've kind of gone through it quite quickly. So if there is any questions, maybe if you want to just book a call with any of the team internally, we can set that up with you. The next side of things is the report section. So I suppose it's important, recruitment is very expensive. So it is important to make sure that where you're putting your efforts, that it is actually paying off. So important to know, I suppose, what job boards are working for you, what social media is working for you. For example, ourselves, Facebook isn't really an area that works for us. So we don't really, post much on Facebook, but Twitter is actually an area that works very well for us. So we do put a bit of time in that. So again, depending on what industry you're in, what job you're in, that kind of thing, what jobs you're looking for. So this is again your dashboard, the job list views. So for this one, I can just see how many views I've had on my website. So that's where your careers page is. But you'll also if you have it on different job boards here, you'll have Indeed listed here and Glassdoor and whatever it is, whatever job board's using, it'll show how many views you've gotten up for each job here. Then the individual job boards. So again, this is where you're showing, say, your Twitter, that's your career site, all that kind of thing is to see how many actual job boards how many people are viewing your jobs. Maybe there's a better time period, that kind of thing. Job applications. So this is a demo account, so I don't actually have any, but you'll see again how many applications you have per different place you've put onto your jobs, and the process timing. So if you're using hiring managers, you can see how many days in each step of the recruitment process. So say, for example, if you want to have an overview of how many days it's taking for people to get from arrival to screening, how many days it's taking for people to get from screening to interview, how many days it's getting people from interview to hire. So you can kind of check in each different step of how long it's taking. And then your source funnel, again, it shows where you're getting people, but I suppose where you're actually hiring people from, which is really important, is even though you may be getting the most jobs, is the most applications from, for example, Indeed, but you never hire anybody from there. So again, this is important for when you're paying for job boards to see, even if you're paying for them, even if you get a lot of applications, you might never hire anybody from there. And there's some downloads there as well. Okay. So if you're using this as a standalone system, I suppose that's kind of where it stops in terms of onboarding and things like that. But if you are linking it to HRLocker and you're using the HRS side within HRLocker, after you hire somebody, you'll bring them into HRLocker and actually bring them through the onboarding process. Then you'll have it set up that they've different documents to sign, different maybe they need to upload some certs, things like that within the system. So I think that's kind of all the bits to have gone through. Is there any other questions there? I might just have a look and check in with Jenny. Is there any other questions there? So again around the referral section, and I would definitely say if with the referral section, if you want to schedule a time to talk, we can go through specifically with the referrals. I think referrals can be really, really popular, and it's a really, really good way to get candidates, but it's make sure that I suppose you're kind of communicating it to your employees properly, that it's a really nice way to get people in, into the system, and to make it really easy for people to do. So I suppose, guys, if anybody has any specific questions afterwards, please come and talk to me, or anybody within the team would be really happy to go through anything with you. And if you're currently using Hire within HRLocker, and maybe even just want to streamline your processes or just go through that, again, happy to go through that, or anybody who is looking to turn it on for the first time. So thank you. Sorry, just 2 more questions before I move on. Can we use the onboarding part as a standalone, also separate from HRLocker? So the onboarding section is within HRLocker. So I suppose you can use it. I mean, it's basically, you will be bringing them into HRLocker. So the onboarding section is within HRLocker. You bring them into HRLocker, you bring them into the directory within HRLocker, and you have your workflow set up there. But that onboarding section, I suppose, is within HRLocker. But I'm happy to talk to you in regards to maybe how you'd like that to work separately. In the reporting section, we'll track recruiters you successfully hire from. Exactly. So anyway, in the reports, it'll show you specifically who you actually hire from, who referred what, how many people referred, and who you actually hired from. So actually, that's a nice report here as well. But of who you hired, but in the reports as well, it'll show you exactly who you hired from, which is most important. Can you create talent pools? So within your within your candidates, so all your candidates will sit here, and every applicant you have will be sitting here. Depending on how you want to create things, it's really important that when you're looking at things, that you're looking at, I suppose, when you're creating your talent pool, of sectioning things out. So for example, if you're starring people, if you're 4 or 5 star candidates, you can have a look at them and how you're tagging people as well. So then you're creating your kind of ease of use of how to search for these people. So once you have you'll have a database here of candidates, and you can look who you can, I suppose, find people you've tagged who have a 5-year sales experience and have 4 or 5 star candidates who applied for jobs 2 or 3 months ago. Or for example, you can look at people who have 3 years sales experience who you rated for 3 or 4 star candidates. So yes, so you can create your talent pool there. If you're using the system to search for candidates, can you use Boolean search for a skill search, or is it just one keyword? So again, really depending on how you have, I'm just going to put in the more options here. So you can search by name, location, applications after, before, cover letter, and the tags. So the tags is the most important thing. So you see here, I've put in, I suppose, specific tags to search by. So if you have 10, 3 or 4 tags, that's how you're going to search through there. Hope that answers your question. Okay, I think that's all the questions so far. But again, if anybody has any questions, please contact me directly or anybody in the team. We'd be delighted to go through anything with you. Lovely to go through have so many questions. It's always nice to, I suppose, answer everybody. We'll certainly look maybe separately at a separate time. We're doing the onboarding side of things just to show you exactly how they kind of fit together as well. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will talk to you all soon.